Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about avoiding burnout, and there's some key components to it that I think people need to pay attention to. In the world that we live in now, a lot of jobs are over the computer. A lot of jobs are done in a stationary setting, which it leads to a sedentary type situation, which from a health standpoint could be limiting. But beyond that, we are working more and more hours these days, the people that work, right? So we're talking about 40% of the population in the United States that work and actually have jobs and pay taxes and do all those things. So I'll say this, there's a lot of recovery that people should think about because it's going to do several things. If you talk about burnout specifically, which is what this video is about, being a leader across many different organizations, across many different teams and team sizes, I'll tell you, some of the most impressive results I've ever seen has come from small teams. And these people, even though strategically they worked across categories and helped other people in other roles, there were less people, so they carried more weight on their shoulders. Their responsibility and their authority over their day-to-day deeply determined how the business or the organization was going to perform. So avoiding burnout and those practices that these people did stood out to me. Whereas in other organizations, larger organizations, people sometimes seem frazzled, like they can't control their day or can't control how they respond to things. A lot of that is because they're not allowing themselves to avoid burnout. So let's go through that quickly. And I'm going to read this real quick. This came from Business Leadership. I think this is actually a textbook. I buy books in lots sometimes, and sometimes I get books like this. This is Business Leadership. Joan Gallos was the editor. It says it's the second edition, a Josie Bass reader, forward by Ronald A. Hyphens. And there's a bunch of authors on the front that are business authors. But in that book, it's talking about leadership and leadership journeys in general. And it's funny, whoever owned this, they have some question marks and some things that I could help them with, and I'd be happy to do so. But some of the things that I think we're going to call out here in this video, and I do intend it to be a short video, it goes through the commandments of leadership, relationship building, and the last is the physio-spiritual dimensions of leadership development and in managing your teams. And what it says is there's a growing interest in the development of the whole person and experimenting with holistic forms of leadership development. The case study here being an example, and it has a case study in here, which was interesting, but I don't think it really supports the thought here well. But here's the point of it. The theorizing behind this reference, it references psychological phenomena such as emotional intelligence, ego development, altruism, reciprocity, and pro-social behavior, and the like. What's interesting about that, and reading through this, I read some strange things. This was actually decent. It's got a lot of good case studies in it. But I'll say, avoiding burnout sometimes can come directly with how tied into your workforce and your people and your team that you are allowing yourself to be. So work is a part of your person. Your spiritual situation, your physical situation, your familial situation, which is your family, your friends, your social structure, which is another piece. You have 6, 7 different parts of your personality and your lifestyle. What we've unfortunately done in the modern world is the people that do work a lot. 50, 60 hours a week is the standard. And then when we're not there, we're thinking about it anyway. That's not going to lead to better results, okay? And you have to think about all those parts of you. And that's why the thumbnail is specifically relevant. And that's why I did the video today. So in this example, there's 7 types of rest that you should be getting to basically resist and avoid burnout. Burnout's still going to occur from time to time. Here's the point. Take your vacation days. Take a long weekend when you can get it. Rest on your weekends. Don't be tied up with every project here, there, and the other. Do what you have to, but that should be part of your everyday life. It shouldn't all stack up so you have to do it on the weekend, is my point. And the reason I'm saying these things is to avoid burnout, sometimes the best thing to do is just take the things that you put on yourself and limit how much you put on yourself per day. So let's jump into the obvious stuff. The first one, it says physical rest. It talks about lack of sleep and overtraining depletes your body's energy, and it also diminishes your recovery time, or elongates your recovery time and diminishes your recovery response. So you have to get sleep. You have to get physical rest. It talks about getting 2 types. Physical, which is sleep 7 hours nightly, is what it suggests. I've never been able to successfully sleep more than 6. Some nights it's 4. take power naps as needed. I definitely agree with that. Typically, when I get home, I feed the animals and I sit down for a bit and I'll take a power nap right there for about 45 minutes. And then I get up and I do the things I want to do at the house and I do all that. It just became a typical part of my day because it just happened like that. As soon as I got to the house, I got settled in, I sat down, I zonked out for 45 minutes or so. So take power naps. That's useful. I can't do it there today. It makes me groggy. And once I start countering the impact of my coffee, then it pretty much wears off right away. So do that based on your own rhythm. We talked about sleep patterns. The gentleman's name was Pink. I forget the title of the book, but the author's name was Pink. And in that, he talked about how your own rhythms depict whether your brain works more creatively or more successfully at different times of the day, and we all have our own specific rhythms, which you can then retrain by, doing the same thing, getting up at the same time every day, etc. But I will say to that, the process in all these things makes it easier to manage. Okay, so in physical rest to avoid burnout, it talks about sleeping 7 hours a day is passive, taking power naps is passive, and it says active is stretching, getting a massage, using an ergonomic chair, etc. Ergonomics are extremely important. If you have a bad chair at your desk, your back may wear, especially if you get in an accident or you get injured at some point, you may not be able to sit there for more than 4 hours. I had a truck hit me a couple years ago, and my 18-hour days that I could work with regularity were shortened very quickly because it limited my ability to have that same endurance that I used to have. The chairs mattered. The shoes that I wear mattered. We got to the point where I only wear one type of shoes because the rest, it limits my day dramatically. It will knock me out for hours where I can't be on my feet. So that's something you have to think about around that physical rest. Number 2 is mental rest. You have to get mental rest. People don't know what that is. 1, you have to get rid of the device. Cut the phone off and put it away. Those things do not let your brain rest. And also, an iPhone takes pictures constantly. People don't know that. There's infrared pictures being taken of your face constantly, so the phone recognizes who you are. And so it can tell whoever it tells, hey, this person's still on their phone and this is where they're at. That's how the phones work. And that data is then sold. That was part of President Bush's Patriot Act. And it's a complete farce and completely against our constitutional rights, but that happens daily and people pay for it. So cut the phones off to get that rest. Mental rest deficit is caused by overtaxing your thinking. Write down your to-dos, reference checklist, create or shut down the ritual to separate work and life, or create a shutdown ritual to separate work and life, and take a break from problem solving. Meditate. Cut the device off. That ritual for to shut down work and life, I do that. I smoke a cigar on the way to work. I smoke a cigar on the way home sometimes. If you do that ritual, what that does is when I'm having that cigar on the way to the house, it does a lot of things. It keeps me from spending money because I don't stop anywhere because I've got that great cigar lit. I want to enjoy that. So I drive home without stopping and spending money. So it's helpful that way. But also it helps my brain shut down from the duel of the day, whatever that was, so I can reset. So when I get home, I'm better, I'm more present-minded, I'm better to my family, I'm better to the situation at home. Number 3 is social rest. Evaluate your relationships. People don't do this. Evaluate your relationships. Spend more time with people who give you energy and are positive. Spend less time with those that drain your energy and are negative. I don't think people do that at all. I think people have a fear today of being alone. It is better to be alone than be found in poor company, and it's better for your energy levels and your physical health to be with a positive person or to be alone. Negative people drain the energy you do have. And if you're trying to get these other types of rest, and you got someone negative in your life, they can drain all that from you too. The next is spiritual rest. And the biggest part about all this is process. You have to have things processed out so you do things a certain way. And when you do that, you have more success across all of it. Spiritual rest. It says be part of something bigger than yourself. Volunteer. Work a job that feels purpose-driven. Participate in faith-based activities. I think those are great suggestions for all of it. Read your Bible. If you're not a Christian, read whatever book is important to your specific religion. But I'll say this. As a Christian, if you read the Bible for just 5 to 10 minutes a day, it can have a dynamic impact on your life. And people sometimes say, I don't know where to start. Start in Proverbs and then roll your way around the Bible. Start in Proverbs. Get a strong concordance and start in Proverbs. If you do that and just spend 10 minutes a day, use a stopwatch, 5 minutes a day in your Bible. From your faith, you should know the Bible. That's the Word of God, right? About to get in a soapbox here. But if you want to feel less stress and you want to feel supported and not like you're on your own, That's a great way to get spiritual rest and spiritual support. Okay, number 5 is sensory rest. The modern individual is overstimulated. Absolutely. Take a break from social media. Turn off all sounds and visual alerts. Limit video meetings. Set a relaxing ambiance, music, candles, etc. And I will say this, read books. Read an actual book that you open and you turn the pages. Read actual books. If you read actual books, there's not some light shining into your eye. You smell what the book smells like. Old books have great smells. If they don't, put it down and move to another one. But the idea of reading a book, it's not more screen time. It's not more impact on your eyes. It's not more electronic engagement with your brain. So read books. That's one way to get sensory rest. Put down the electronics. Number 6 is emotional rest. Emotional rest deficit occurs when you feel like you can't be authentic. Here's the thing. In the modern world, authenticity is a subject matter that people are talking about more and more. I'll say this. If you are a leader, being authentic matters. If you can't be authentic, you can't have impact on your team because it comes off as a lie. It comes off as dishonest. And you say things like integrity and all that, all the words that have been used many, many times by people that had no integrity or had no positive intent or had no positive regard. So those words are useless. So to get that emotional rest, you need to be authentic. Select work that allows you to be authentic. I've worked for big companies. I've worked for small companies. I like working for myself the most, but it's the hardest work and the longest days. If you work for big companies, some of those days may be very long. The paychecks may be regular, but at the end of the day, you may have somebody that's demented, demonic, or dishonest above you. Any of those 3 Ds is a problem. And if you have a boss that is one of those things, demented, demonic, or dishonest, it's devalue the value of your work anyway. So you're not going to feel appreciated. You're not going to feel fulfilled. So you have to get away from those situations as quickly as possible. So emotional rest. Be somewhere that you feel like you can be authentic. If you can't be authentic at your home, then you need to fix that. You need to be able to rest in a home, a sense of security, a sense of belonging in your home. That's how you recover. And before the modern era, when people didn't feel authentic at work, they were able to recover at home because that was their place. That's why all these things came up with man caves and she sheds and all that nonsense where people do these hobbies at their house. My whole house is my man cave and etc. Because I like reading books. I like collecting things. I like doing those type things. So at the end of the day, my whole house resembles that, as your house probably resembles the things that you like. So be authentic. Emotional rest requires it. And it's got an example, an airline attendant who must always smile despite rude passengers. Suck it up. It's the job. I think more along the lines of if you have a certain belief system, and let's say you're a Christian and you work in a strip club. Not as a stripper, but as a server, etc. Because your town is literally 2 red lights and it's all that's there. Geographically, you may be limited, but that's going to wear you out over time. So the suggestion should be you should move. Okay, go to a place that has greater opportunity for you to live in a lifestyle that you are authentic and feel like you're having an impact, but you also get some equity out of your emotional return. Okay, spend time with people you can be authentic around. I don't know how that's any different from what we said earlier. Spend time with positive people, nobody else. Speaking time with a therapist to release emotional labor. Speak to a therapist if you need one. Absolutely. Go to a therapist if you need one. But if you manage your day appropriately and are true to who you are, therapy, there are going to be events that require therapy, but you should be able to work through a lot of those things on your own. That stoic intelligence, that self-intelligence, that emotional intelligence that comes from how you handle those things. So if you need to work that out, I'd say read more. Watch less TV, watch more videos like these, and read more so you can see that your individual situation is not very different from all those that came before you. And maybe you can learn from some of the things that they did, and it may improve your life and the quality of your life. And the last is creative rest. Appreciate beauty in any form, whether natural or human created. Natural, take a sunrise or sunset, go for a walk in nature. For some of you folks that live in cities, that's extremely hard to do. I live on a property. I love going outside and taking a walk. You're handling animals, doing all that. It just makes you feel recovered. The air out there is good. So, it is rejuvenating. And then human creative. Visit a museum or art festival. Engage with inspiring music, books, documentaries, etc. Agree with that completely. I'll tell you, I do feel refreshed when I go to museums and I see history. Because we're impacted by the 100 years that we have, right? But there were millennia that came before us, and there's millennia that are going to come after us. And if you pay attention to those things, sometimes you can learn and enjoy a lot of that. So hopefully this was helpful. All this will be in the thumbnail of the video. If you like subject matter such as these, please subscribe. I'm Ben. Be good.